Okay, so this is a topic that I've been wanting to dive into. I've been running different units for um, mix and matching brands for a 2 years now. Is it 2 years? 3 years? 2 years? It's my third year. This will be my third year of running, mixing, and matching them all. And so basically, I think I started in 2020, and I started with Humminbird and Lowrance in the back, Lowrance, Humminbird, and Garmin up front. So I had basically all three brands on there. And I sort of gave you guys a little bit of a breakdown on that. Last year, I transitioned to Lowrance ActiveTarget up front, a Lowrance unit. So I have 3 units up front, a Lowrance unit over there to the right. So I have 2 Lowrances up front and a Humminbird up front. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my opinion of how I think Garmin and Lowrance, after running both of them for a full season, how I feel like they match up a little bit later in this video when we go to the front. But right here in the cockpit, I really want to dive into my reasoning behind what I did and what I have been doing these last few years. And a lot of you already know this, okay? Now, first, to preface all this, okay? I fish professionally for a living. This is all I do. My money, the money that I make day in and day out, revolves around trying to find bass more efficiently than the competition. So if I can get an edge, which, having multiple different, so for me, like having both Lake Master and CMAP mapping is valuable. If I see one more contour that I would not have seen if I didn't have CMAP or Lake Master, that's a very valuable aspect, and it pays for itself at the end of the season. I see a lot of people right now that this is becoming a trend, and I don't want this to be like a thing that electronics, no doubt, and are a huge aspect to the game, but it's typically about 30% of the tournaments you really are utilizing these electronics to the fullest extent, and really, it's revolves a lot around your game plan. So that being said, diving into what I'm running in 2021 and what I've run in 2021, I ran a Helix 12 Humminbird unit. I've ran a Lowrance HDS 12 live unit. I have the Helix that comes with side scan, down scan, Lake Master, all that stuff. First off, my review on the Helix, I think it's a solid unit. Reasons behind it, definitely Lake Master is nice. For me, I think it's a quality unit. I don't use it for waypoint management. I use it more for either side scan or I use it for my actual mapping. Hold on, let's see who this is. And so my one pet peeve about a Humminbird that I have seen, and it's super glitchy. Like weird stuff will happen. Will turn off. They'll just stop working. And like you'll put a card in there, and it'll like freeze up the unit. You turn the power off, turn it back on. I try to update the stuff, but it does seem like on both units that I've used, a Helix up front, which is a DI Helix, and then this one in back, super glitchy. I don't use the down scan. I personally, and I'm not going to say I'm like the master electronics guy in any way, shape, or form, but I cannot get a very clean image of my down scan image, off of the Helix. And so I don't even use that feature of down scan, or 2D really. Now, I don't have everything set up. I don't have a 2D puck or anything like that. I don't really utilize 2D on this. And that's what, but I can't, for some reason, I just can't get it. Now, side scan, in their side imaging, is really good. Mega imaging is really nice when you're out there in that 80-foot. 455 seems to be a little bit better when you're trying to get further ranges out there in like 120 or something like that. But they definitely show shadows better on one thing that the Humminbird does have is the advantage is it shows shadows typically better on harder bottom typically. And it does seem to be, Lake Master is nice to have on certain lakes. Not all Lake Master mapping is accurate, but a lot of them are really, really good. And it's nice to have on that, like Lake Offset and some of those things. So those are the features, the reason why I selected this. Now, The Lowrance, in my opinion, disadvantages of Lowrance to me, because I started with disadvantages with the Humminbird. I think the biggest disadvantage to a Lowrance, maybe can't see fish as well on hard bottom on side scan. Okay, so that's maybe the one thing that I would say. Now, if you throw it, I run 455. If I ran 800, I feel like I would see them a little bit better if you basically you're shrinking down, because I run a lot of times I'll run like 80 feet on my like mega imaging, but then I'll run 120 feet on my Lowrance. And so when you're on 455, sometimes you don't get as good an image, or sometimes you will with 800. But it's not what it is it's not as it's just different, the image of what it shows. If you understand a Lowrance and you see a Lowrance, it shows up differently on hard bottom as fish rather than shadows. Humminbird doesn't really show you the fish, it shows you a shadow, and you have to differentiate what's basically going on. So this is diving deep into it, and I'm trying to give you guys some goods, because a lot of people are doing that. But if I only had to pick one, and I get this question all the time, there's no shot, without a shadow of a doubt, I would have to pick Lowrance, because advantages wise for Lowrance, okay, number one, GPS waypoint management, light years ahead of Humminbird. Like it's night and day. It's not even a question. I can put waypoints in. I see a log boop waypoint, have a log icon, do all this stuff, and I have a system of waypoints where it takes forever, obviously. Now, obviously, I don't have the touch screen on this Helix. I've used the Helix. I'm going to switch over to a Solix this year and see if it's a little less glitchy in 2022. But that's sort of, I want to see, because I've heard that the DI is better with the Solix, but I'm just going to play with it. I want to see personally for myself exactly what went down. But as far as Lowrance goes, 2D is unbelievable. Side imaging, I can see a large distance out. You maybe don't get as much detail with your side imaging, like I said, because I am using a lower frequency, but it does the job. And I can see, I use Lowrance for a lot for reference, and so like I know if I just only have my Lowrance, I'm like, I can see it. I know what I'm looking at. Down imaging is really good too. I would say in 2019, 2020, it was not as good a quality as it had been in the past. But I run a 2-in-1 transducer in the back, that's side imaging and down imaging. I do not prefer a 3-in-1 personally, because that it's just overall, I don't think you get as good an image. I think that you're trying to take away, you're having this transducer do 3 things rather than just 2. So if you have all the power just running 2 different things, I feel like with the down imaging and side scan, I feel like it's a better, clearer image. This is my own personal opinion. I mean, I've seen a lot of great images off of 3-in-1, so I just personally what I like. And then obviously managing waypoints, being able to zoom out and just grab like a certain lake of waypoints and put that into your computer and have that saved is unbelievable. Like I said, waypoint management, Lowrance has their stuff figured out by leaps and bounds. And even I feel like their downscan, I feel like as far as a complete package, as far as the helm of my boat, cockpit of my boat right here, behind the driver's seat, I'm going to roll with the Lowrance. Now, there's a lot of people that are going to say a Humminbird. A lot of people, it's either way. This is the thing. I don't want this to become a deal where it's like, all right, everybody, if you don't fish professionally, you don't need 100 different graphs. Pick one that you like and roll with it, So I would say, it's really personal preference overall, but I'm just telling you guys how I feel about it, and the advantages and disadvantages that I've seen. Also, I will say I've been running these BoatLogix mounts for several years now. This is made in Chattanooga. They're an unbelievable company. They have a sturdy graph mount. The way it's secured is next to none. Personally, best graph mount I've ever used in my entire life, my entire career. And I'll talk about this a little more later on. I'll show you why it is. I won't talk about it in this video, but it definitely a shout out to them. I mean, they make an incredible product. All right, so enough of the back of the boat. Let's jump up to the front and see if we can dive into some of that little live sonar, forward-facing sonar 360 Let's see what's up. So come on. I have 3 graphs laid out. This is a Helix 12, a Lowrance HDS live unit, and a Lowrance HDS live unit. I use my top one for ActiveTarget, my bottom right for mapping, down scan, 2D, side scan the back, and then I have this guy right here with 360, and then my mapping as well. So first off, on the Humminbird 360, as far as just being able to see what is going on is really cool when you're fishing slow in an area and seeing some of the outer area of, like, what I mean by that is like seeing like some of the shallow cover stumps, grass, clumps, grass edges, shallower water, giving you a full picture view in a 360 view of that. The issue on the 360 side of things that it's tough is it's so slow and I move so fast. So if you're very fast fisherman, 360 might not be your best option. If you're constantly moving down the bank, it's probably not going to be as applicable in your situation. Also, again, with this guy here, I have an opportunity to run Lake Master and then Lake Offset. So that's a nice advantage when I can run C maps or Navionics on Lowrance and have a little bit of both and contrast and area, and might be able to see something a little bit different. So that's one thing there. That's really all I use it for. I don't have, this is a Helix 12, just a DI unit. So I don't even have I've not had as many issues with this unit. But it seems to work really overall pretty well for what I wanted to do. The one thing that I will say I have an issue with sometimes is when the 360 is working and then my ActiveTarget's running, I can tend to have a little bit of interference at times. And that's just, and it goes in and out. I can't quite pinpoint exactly why, but it seems to be connected. So if I'm really trying to get a really good quality image off the ActiveTarget, I will turn off 360 sometimes, especially when I'm not using it. Now, the one thing I will say, especially if you're using 360 in mega imaging, it does not seem to pick up the bottom as well in softer bottom areas on mega imaging and seeing further places. So deeper water, if I'm out there, it's harder to see objects on soft bottom than it is on hard bottom. Again, their imaging seems to work better on harder bottom areas. And I've tweaked it a little bit. I just can't get it to look the way I want it to look. But it does, again, it really does shine on those harder bottom areas, sometimes shell beds, rock piles, those kind of stuff that when you're on, you're trying to get orientation, understanding of where you're at, in relation to that. The issue is it is not a live image. So like a perspective or a scout mode, like a scout mode on the ranch, you're having a live image of what's actually happening at that point in time. So good unit. I mean, same setup that I've run over the years, but so anyway, so that's the reason why I've run it. Okay. Going over here, Lowrance HDS 12 live. This guy right here, again, waypoint management. It's connected back there with Ethernet cable through NEMA as well. I don't even know. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't feel like I need 2D that much anymore. Like 2D is good sometimes, but I feel like, I'm going to be honest with you, with ActiveTarget or Panoptics, I don't think you have I don't feel like you have the need for it as much. And I'm going to be honest with you, the dang 2D pucks, they freaking are so loud on all these units sometimes. I feel like it scares them away, even more so than a live sonar. So it's like super loud. So I think that sometimes, like, I'll turn it off. I'll completely turn it off, and I have an HDMI down there, HDI down there that works, and it's a good image. I mean, it is. And there's times for smallmouth that will tell you this season at Champlain that I caught fish off of 2D and I did not see them on ActiveTarget. So I will say there is sometimes that it's nice to have that. And there is a time when your bait's vertical that you tend to trigger those bites a little bit better than actually casting to them, if you will. But it seems like there are times that they'll bite it better when they're underneath the boat. Not all the time, but it just seem like that it is that. Overall the units, it's solid. I'm gonna be honest with you, I've not had very, very like minimal issues of whatsoever with my Lowrance units. And that's why I've decided to run as many. I mean, the main reason I ran 2 this year instead of running a Garmin was, number one, is like I use the Lowrance a lot. And then number two, the fact of ActiveTarget and running ActiveTarget before jumping into the whole, ActiveTarget deal, was I'm like, hey, if something did go bad, I could swap one unit out if I needed ActiveTarget or something like that. Where if you have like 3 different graphs of 3 different brands and you have one go out, you're in trouble. Like you're sitting there and you're down. So, I mean, that's sort of the reasoning behind it. But that's sort of giving you guys an understanding. Now, jumping into what you actually want to say. So if you made it this long, jumping into forward-facing sonar and what my thoughts were on the forward-facing sonar. I've seen images of live 360 Mega 360 Live, I guess is what it is, or Mega Live. I've seen images. Obviously, I know I've ran a Garmin Panoptics. I fished with a lot of people that have Garmin Panoptics, and I've fished ActiveTarget. This is the deal. Right now, I know a lot of people were talking about how great this Mega Live was going to be. They have some room to work on their Mega Live. It works. And if you love Humminbird and that's what your preference is, then you can roll with it. But it does not seem to me, I feel like I would have thought when they came out with it, like I was anticipating it to be unbelievable. And I've been in the boat with someone that's had it. And it definitely seems to be subpar to Lowrance and Garmin. Now, so we're going to talk about Lowrance and Garmin on the forward-facing sonar side. Not saying I'm sure they're working on it. I mean, they do a great job over there at Humminbird, so I'm sure they'll figure that out. But okay, so Lowrance and Garmin side, after a full year of what I think I would pick and select, and what I'm going to run this season, I'm going to run Lowrance again. And this is the biggest reason. There's a disadvantage in a Lowrance unit. There is a spot that's between like 30 and 60 feet that has a little bit of, it's a little fuzzy there. Or say I run my ActiveTarget on 100 feet, or say there's 20 feet that it's not as crisp, okay? But the advantage to ActiveTarget is that I can see fish out way further and objects out further at clarity than I can on a Garmin. And I've played with it this year. I mean, I have an aluminum boat that has Garmin live scope on it. I've updated it. I've done all this stuff. I've played with it a ton. I always am trying to make sure that I'm up to date with the best technology. But for me personally, Lowrance ActiveTarget sees fish further. I can catch them. I'm more accurate. You do have to be more precise because it does seem like it's a smaller beam. Like you don't have as much play to play around with, like if you're following your bait or, but the good thing with that is if I see a fish out there, you got to imagine your beam, as it goes out like a flashlight. If it's close, it's just a real small beam. It's real narrow. If it's 10 feet out there, it's real small. But if you're out there 80, 90, 100 feet, your beam gets a little bit wider as it goes out. And so when I get out there to 100 feet or 90 feet or 80 feet and I'm making a cast out there and I can see my bait hit the water and I see how a fish reacts, I know, hey, there's the bait and there's the fish, and he sees it and I see how it reacts at that distance, I'm ahead of the game. So that's my personal preference. That's what I like. It's the reason why I'm running the Lowrance ActiveTarget again for this season. Now, diving into trolling motor, I've run both Lowrance Ghost and Minn Kota. To be honest with you, I've run a Lowrance at first. I like a Lowrance fishing shallow better than Ultrex. I think Ultrex can be very loud. And again, with fishing pressure, you want to have something that is a little bit little bit quieter. If you're trying to get around some places, it'd be a little bit more stealthier. It seems to be better on that side. I only ran it for, I think, 3 tournaments. I swapped it back and forth throughout the year. If I was a shallow tournament, if I was a deep water tournament, I'd swap back and forth. But now, and I was having a little bit of an issue with my not the icon, but the arrow on my trolling motor to give me a really understanding of where my active target was. Now, that being said, I've run multiple Lowrance active targets now, and they seem to have fixed that issue no problem. So it has the indicator arrow on that trolling motor seems to be pretty legitimate. There is a little bit more play in that trolling motor than there is with the Ultrex. So I might still swap them back and forth. I don't know. I always like to try new things, and I think there's an advantage on both. I can't say I ran Lowrance for 3 tournaments. I've ran a long shaft Minn Kota for a few tournaments. I've run a Humminbird, a Minn Kota shorter shaft, like 45-inch Ultrex for a few events too. The one thing I haven't seen is durability. Now, we beat the heck out of our equipment, but it does seem hard because all of the trolling motors, if you're beating, if you're really fishing them hard and with rough water, they take a beating, and they're pretty. They get messed up. The brackets get messed up fairly quickly. I would like to know if someone's fished them all, and fished them hard, who they think makes the best bracket for the trolling motor. And what I mean by that is Lowrance is, I've not had an issue with the Lowrance bracket one bit, but I have not fished the Great Lakes with the Lowrance bracket. So it's not fair to say, hey, the Ultrex is not as good, but, because I was fishing, shallower water and I'm not hitting bigger waves, and so it's not as much beating on it. So I don't want to be that way, but that's what I'm seeing. So anyway, that's my rundown for this season. I'm going to dive into my overall thoughts on electronics and what I think it means for the everyday angler, and what I think they really need to be out here and competing and doing well. I think that this is great. Again, I run a lot of electronics. I do. And it plays in, like I said, 30 to 40% of my tournaments. Last year, I won 3 BBTs. I won 1 sight fishing. I won 1 skipping boat docks. And I won 1 completely off of ActiveTarget. Literally, was 33%. 33% of my wins came from the electronics. And then the other 66%, 66.6%, whatever, came from just fishing. So that's the biggest thing I think that people look at these graphs and technology and they go, oh my gosh, I can't compete, or I can't do it. But look, it's just bass fishing. The bass live shallow year round, and you could still do exactly how you want to fish. If I didn't have all this equipment, I would I could do a lot of what I need to do off of one HDS 9 and an HDS 9 in the bag. I can do what I need to do. I might not be as efficient to be able to cover as much water as effectively, but it's really all more so about the fundamentals. It's more so about, dribbling the basketball and understand how to dribble, how to shoot, how to block, all of those things, rebound, XYZ. So that's a different concept for a different day. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. I try to dive into a little bit more in depth of what I'm running, why I'm running it. Drop a comment below. If I forgot something, I apologize. But I wanted to give you guys a quick rundown because I promised you all a rundown a little while ago, and I haven't given you the year-end rundown on these graphs. Hey, 2022, hopefully it's as good as the last one, because 2021 was pretty dang solid. Thank you all so much for watching.